Hey, so amazing. You see how they playing? LiveWire, it's all about sports and entertainment. You don't want to miss it, so official like you never seen. Keep it going till the whistle blowing from the referee. Everything from highlights and stats. You know that we gotta run it back, whether on the field or the court. You know that this is where it's at. Subscribe, no delaying. This is LiveWire, sports and entertainment. Let's go.
All right, welcome to another LiveWire Sports Media, and I have a special guest today. Someone I admire, someone I follow, somebody that knows about women's basketball inside and out. My special spotlight guest today is Megan Price, who also hosts the 806 Sports Radio 1440 AM, production of Cy Powell's AA for the Diamondbacks, co-host of Three Chicks in the Pod and Chicks and Salsa, and creative of host of Sip Off and WBB Media. If I got all of that correct.
Anything that's women's basketball, yeah, I'm in there.
Okay. So how you doing today?
I'm doing really well. It's been, despite being freezing, got 4 layers on right now. It's like 9 degrees here. So it's crazy cold for the top part of Texas right now.
Oh, you can have that 9 degrees. I'll take my little 38 degrees in South Carolina.
Oh my God, I wish it was 38 degrees right now.
Right. So I like I said, I follow you a lot and I watch what you do and I respect it a lot. And I wanted to, if anybody I wanted to pick your brain because you do a lot of women's basketball and stuff like that.
Right.
So, but we're gonna dive into your team, the Texas Longhorns. They are number 2 in the nation right now, and they did have a upset victory over South Carolina over a week ago.
Right.
So tell me how you feel about doing right now as position going into the SEC tournament.
So going into the SEC tournament right now, by us also following up and beating LSU, that puts LSU as the best that they can do possibly now is the number 2 seed. Mm-hmm. So guaranteed that it was going to be between South Carolina and Texas as far as seeding when it comes into the SEC tournament. And while I'm excited to be number 2 in the country right now in the rankings, and I think that those 2 wins were very big for us, but they were home court wins. And I want to see my team go out and be on the road and be battle tested. Now, obviously, the tournaments are going to be different because they're at neutral sites. In order for us to be successful at the tournaments, whether it's the SEC tournament or it's, the March Madness tournament, our shooting has to be on. And I think we go whatever way Madison Booker and Rory Harmon go, if their shooting is off, we're going to struggle. Now, we're great in the lane. We got Oldeker off of the bench, and her and Taylor are putting up very similar stats. They share minutes sometimes they share the floor, and we go big. And I think that's how we beat South Carolina, is because we went big. However, Madison Booker was really good that day. So, I think we have to be on all cylinders for us to be able to be successful outside of Moody Center. If we're in Moody Center, I think we got the advantage. But if we're not at home, we're just going to have to be firing on all cylinders. I think the biggest thing with the South Carolina win to me was we held everybody except one player to single digits. That's that Texas full court press, Vic Schaefer oppressive type of defense. And I'm such a fan of that because defense is effort. Yeah. Obviously, shooting is exciting to watch, but defense is critical. And even the score on that game was really low scoring too. So while we weren't the hottest on our shooting, being able to hold them down, because they normally have at least 3 to 4 girls that are in double digits on the scoring, and there was only one.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of difference because I did watch that South Carolina and Texas game, and Booker, she was phenomenal. I mean, it's like she rebounded, she scored, and she kind of ran the show a little bit to set up a lot of different things. And that's very exciting to see from a big person, to really do that. So, and I still have questions about South Carolina because it seemed like they would have bounced back after that Texas game to be
Mhm.
up for the UConn game, and they wasn't. It's like
They were not.
I mean,
That was such a shocking game for me. South Carolina had lost at home in probably like 3 years, I think. So this was a huge victory for UConn. UConn has gone through some shooting struggles as well this year, and were criticized by their head coach in a post game presser last week, and it was not something that I appreciated, to be perfectly honest. If I were in that position, I'm Paige Beckers because that's who he was going at.
yeah.
I don't know that I want to be criticized at that level. Not from him, not from the person that's supposed to be, I don't want to say protector, but I like that in my coaches. Like if it gets tough, I know my coach is going to have my back. And that's something I see in Vic over there at Texas. If it's tough and it's a bad loss, you're not going to talk to the girls. You're going to talk to him, and he's going to uplift his girls. Now, however, was it successful? Because they came in and beat the brakes off South Carolina in their house. And I don't mean to put it like that, but it is what it is. I would much rather lose at this time of the year than next month. South Carolina has the hardest strengthened schedule this year. Nobody has done what South Carolina has done in non-conference play, like, because nobody wants to play them unless you're the best of the best.
Yeah.
And so, they lined up Notre Dame, they lined up UCLA. They had all these non-conference games, and then when conference hit, you know what it's like in the SEC. Like, of course, you got the powerhouses, you got LSU, you got Texas, and then obviously South Carolina. But any given night, you got to go play Vanderbilt, and they're hella good too. And then you got Ole Miss, and they're a very strong defensive team. And then you got Tennessee, who is really, really hot. And probably, I'll say that Tennessee game and the South Carolina game, those are our closest victories, like the smallest deficit. And we had to play our butts off to get those victories. So, in Kentucky, they're pretty good. Then, there's any given night in the SEC on the women's side, I think it's really, really tough. So, like, as far as strength and schedule, nobody's done what South Carolina's done. Maybe they're tired.
Yeah, that could be a thing. That could be a factor, because being tired kind of takes a toll on you, and then you got to get mentally prepared for the SEC tournament.
Right.
And it takes you straight into, seeding and March Madness. And that's where I want to touch on a little bit, because you did brought up Tennessee, which Tennessee ended up beating UConn a week ago.
Right.
And then that was kind of like them coming, and then UConn had to come back and be ready to play South Carolina. And it's a game that, when I watched that whole game, I watched the first half because I already knew it was a blowout. It was a disaster. But from that point, I watched that game, and I looked at South Carolina. I say, they don't have outside shooting.
Right.
And UConn ran them to the 3-point line, made shots. AZ Fudd was amazing. That's probably one of her best games of the season.
Right.
She had 28 points, 6 for 9 from 3. Paige almost had a triple-double that game.
Right.
So it was almost a flawless game for UConn to play. Now, is UConn going to play that way, that continuously going into the tournament? I don't know.
Right. That is a good question. And I think that they're a team, just because of the star power that they have, like, despite no matter how bad they look, I don't think you can ever count them out on a single elimination scenario. And that's what tournaments are. They're single elimination. That's why we love it so much. First round exits, like, lower seeds getting a hold of a higher seed, knocking them out early. We love that. So any given day, I think UConn can do it, because on most given days, they're probably better coached than most teams. However, when you're going up against a Dawn Staley or Kim Caldwell, who has made a massive name for herself over there at Tennessee, something that Kim does that is, it's tough. So her thing about defense is she'll play the heck out of y'all. And even if they're getting outscored, she'll take everybody out. She'll take all 5 girls out, and then she'll bring in 10 brand new legs. They've been rested. And it doesn't matter if they're beating you by 10 or 15, they're going to put in the new girls that are rested, and they're going to finish it out and just keep their foot on the gas. So like, I'm super impressed. I saw it even in our game when we had 2 minutes left. That's all we had. We had 2 minutes in the fourth, and she hit us with 5 new girls rested. Like, oh my God, are you serious?
I never seen nothing like it myself.
Right.
And when I witnessed it, when they played UConn, I was like, they wearing UConn out with that, because that's almost like equivalent to college football, or you rotate players in and out. You have a good depth of bench, and your 5 off the bench could do what your starters could do.
Right.
And the intensity is probably a little bit more because they are well rested.
Right.
And I was like, I was amazed by that. I was like, I never seen it in college, and I think
I've never seen that in a college game before, and I was like, oh my God, what is she doing?
exactly. I was like, wait, what? Am I watching this really go down? Because what she's doing is probably going to set something up for a lot of coaches to adapt later
Right.
on, to where they could keep fresher players. They keep their star players a little bit more fresh, and not having the risk for injury as well.
Right. To me, I'm okay with calling Kim Caldwell a basketball savant. She has done something this season that I've never seen before. I've never seen that in a NCAA game before, where you take all your starters out at one time and then you rotate the bench in. And it was very impressive. And like I said, at the time that we played them, I believe we were in their house and Kim was actually out. So it was her assistant that was coaching. And so yes, I had been watching Tennessee and I knew that this was something that she did, but I guess I wasn't thinking about it because she wasn't there. And then it was their assistant coach and she did the exact same thing. And it was like, oh my God, here we go.
So I want to ask you a question, and this is a Texas question.
Okay.
What is your prediction about Doom being the number 1 seed in the nation, going through the SEC tournament and getting that number 1 seed going into the tournament?
I think we're a year away from that, actually. I of course, would love to see it, and I'm rooting for my team for that to happen. But if you watched any of my shows, I'm a logical fan. And so I'm not going to sit there and get my hopes up or talk irrationally or be a prisoner of the moment. Is it great that we're at number 2? Yes. Do I think maybe we should be there? Maybe not. I think there are some question marks that come into that, especially when it comes to the South Carolina game, because there were some questionable calls that went in our favor. And I know personally with my victories, I want them to be undisputed. I want to play the best with everybody I got healthy. Like, I don't want there to be an excuse. And so when those questionable calls came in and they went in favor for South Carolina, it was disappointing because I want to win. But I want to win the right way. And so, when it comes to Texas, I think their biggest question mark for them is last year we looked so good because Madison was running the point. And she still does point also, but she's a point forward. And the reason we used her as that is because Rory was injured. Rory has come back, and in some games she looks great, and in some games it's not quite there. I think because they got so used to running the offense through Madison that it's a little jumbled at the point right now. And so I think that throws the shooting off. Now, Maddie is our 3-point shooter. She gets in the lane as well because of that size. And then Rory, obviously, she's a great defender and her mid-range is ridiculously good. But their shooting has to be on for us to win, period. At least a top 5 team. It's going to have to be on for us to win.
Is Rory Harmon, is she a senior or she's a junior?
She is a senior, but they awarded her a redshirt year because last year she got hurt right before conference play started. And then the year before that, she was also injured. And so the amount of time added up to almost a season and a half that she was out. And so they went ahead and gave her a redshirt year. She will be back next year.
Okay, that's what I was wondering if she was going to come out.
Can I go ahead and add a little note on that? Can y'all please take her off y'all's mock drafts? She's not going.
That's why I asked that question.
Right. I see her on all these mock drafts, and I'm like, she's not going.
And because a lot of people, this is so funny to me because the WNBA mock draft continues to change, and I saw Ronnie Harmon on there. I started seeing people started putting Laura Betts on there, and then she put that to bed. And,
right, yeah, she did.
And I was like, And then people was thinking, well, what if Flau'jae comes out? I don't know if she's going to come out, because you look at it, if all of them was to come out, this would be the most stacked draft in history. And then you got to think about, okay, Paige 1, Olivia Miles most likely 2. Then you're gonna have to say who's gonna be 3, 4, 5 down the line. But
Right.
since some of them coming back, that leaves enough room, because you think about it, the WNBA is continue to expand with
It
teams.
is.
So
We had some exciting news this week with the WNBA. Now, obviously, we had some news in free agency, but we had some news in expansion as well. And the Cleveland Rockers, are going to be coming back in 2028. And this is something that's really near and dear to my heart. I love the original teams. Bring back the Houston Comets. I got to say that first and foremost. But love to see a city get their team back. Similar to like the Sonics are probably going to go back to Seattle pretty soon. Like that's in the works. And it's so great to see them get their team back. And I have some people that I actually know in Cleveland, and for them to get their team back, it meant a lot to them. So hopefully I get to say the same thing and be like, Houston's back eventually.
Well, that's why I wanted to touch on, that's what was my WNBA question about how you feel about Cleveland. When the WNBA started, I was a huge Houston Comets fan. I was a diehard, and I followed that team for 4 straight titles. And then, I watched here and there periodically, and then I finally got back into it because there was so much talent. And I love the young stars that came out of college last year, and especially Caitlin Clark on the top of the list. And then now starting to really put my mind more into the women's side of the basketball, starting to learn about the younger talent that's in the college now, and everything like that. And I think that eventually, I predict the WNBA to go to 50 games max, 55 games max. They're probably going to probably add a couple more teams, and then that probably, because you have a lot of talent that's overseas as well that's trying to come over to play, and there's not enough roster spots at the time with the current teams right now. So expansion makes sense.
Like right now, there's 144 roster spots, last season. But going into this season, we're going to add 12 more with Golden State. And so that still only puts us up to 156 roster spots. Still the most competitive, hardest league to make in the world. We talk about the draft, there's 3 rounds, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, there's only 36 players that are getting drafted. And obviously this is previous. It'll be different this year. It'll be 13 each round instead of 12. And a lot of those ladies, our first round picks are getting cut because it's so hard to make a roster in the WNBA. So we've seen, some really great talent that hasn't been able to make a roster. And obviously this will help that. We're going to have Toronto and Portland coming in 26. Cleveland will be back in 28. And so I think that the way that they're doing it, adding it a couple each year, or 1 here and then a couple the next year, and then maybe the couple after that, I think that's the right way to do it. Ideally, I would love to see every NBA team have a sister team. I think that's the fix to everything, to be perfectly honest. As far as having good facilities and all of that. Yeah. Once you have a brother team within the NBA, that kind of cancels all that out because those facilities are already there, Exactly. And it helps with, obviously you could profit share as well, because we saw a couple years ago in the playoffs when the Mercury made the playoffs, nobody expected it. Skylar Diggins-Smith was still there in Phoenix. She didn't play the last couple of games because at the time we didn't know it, but she was pregnant. And so she wasn't playing. Yeah. And they ended up making the playoffs. No one expected that to happen. And so for their playoff game, Disney on Ice was in town, and this had been scheduled for a while. They weren't able to do it. They weren't able to play in their arena. And so the Suns said, hey, you're going to come over, you're going to play with us, and you're going to be the opening act for our preseason game. And I think if you do that, like say during the playoffs of the WNBA, have them be the headliner and have the NBA preseason be the opening act. Yeah. You go up on the ticket prices a little bit and then just split the profits, whether it's 50-50 or, if you think you're getting more for the NBA team, I can kind of understand that. 60-40 split, something like that is reasonable. But that's how you build those programs up and those teams to be successful. Now, we have seen some bids coming in for places that don't have NBA teams. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't have WNBA teams, but
Yeah.
I do think that that kind of fixes everything, honestly. And then if we could have maybe the W, like you said, at 55 games, I'm good with that. I actually think that the NBA needs to go down on games. I don't think that that'll ever happen because clearly it's a business and owners aren't going to say, hey, I'm going to take less money. But I think like a 62 to 65 game
Yeah.
season would also help the NBA.
Yeah. I agree with you on that because you look at it, the WNBA is trying to elevate a little bit more. And, especially with the new CBA coming in, the TV
Yes.
ratings, and the viewership and all of that. Viewership and all of that. And it's just almost like the NBA is they want to stand still, but you got to look at it. Look at the NFL. The NFL has continued to increase more and more. They
They have.
already talking about adding more games. Eventually, it's going to be just like college football, where there is no preseason game. They'll probably be training camp, scrimmages, and then go straight into the season. Me
Right.
personally, I would want it to be that way because you just understanding how you are able to play. You work all the kinks out through 3 or 4 games. So, but the way that WNBA is, a lot of people, because they subsidize because of the NBA and they lose money here and there. But thank God,
Right.
they
I think that's going to change over the next couple of years, though. Like they've
yeah
been really close to breaking even over the last couple of seasons. And I think that they're going to be moving towards getting out of the red. And obviously that's very important. And we hear a lot of people that criticize the money side of things. But I think if you go back and look at history, especially the history of the NBA, they really didn't start making money until they were almost 30 years in. And that's when they had Larry and they had Magic. And I think we have those type of rivalries brewing right now in the WNBA, and you need those rivalries. That's what's missing in the NBA right now. They're all friends. We saw them at the All-Star. Like they're all getting along. I mean, it was not that. Jordan was not everybody's friend when the
exactly.
NBA was the most popular.
I don't understand it because everybody wants to be friends. They want to
Right.
play with each other. I don't want you to play with me. I want to beat you.
Right. And so
That's
we're
why.
seeing that in the W now. Like we're seeing New York fans do not like Vegas.
Yeah.
Vegas and Seattle there's no love lost there either because they've met in the playoffs before. They've met in the finals before. The first year that they were in Vegas, Vegas made the finals, but they ran up against Sue Bird on her last championship run. So like they definitely don't like each other. I don't know if anybody likes Dallas at this point. And
Yeah.
like there's and clearly, there's issues with Indiana. Corn people, please don't come for me. It is what it is. They have a hell of a team coming into this new season though.
I think Indiana is the equivalent of the Dallas Cowboys. I think that the fans are so passionate, and then you got to think Caitlin Clark fans came over and just popularized that franchise even more. And to what Kelly Amber have done in bringing Stephanie White there, and a lot of people, I tell people, if you don't do the history of the Indiana Fever, how they built their first championship team, you're not gonna understand how this team is being built. It's almost a replica of that Tamika Catchings team, and they're putting pieces around the young talent because you got Caitlin Clark, you got Leah Boston, rookie 1, rookie 2, and you don't want to waste their years on a 5-year to 6-year plan. You got to monopolize it now while the iron is hot because you can make a strong run to rip off 3 or 4 championships down the line. Who knows? And everybody's a free agent. What's the hot spot the teams want to sign? To Indiana. Everybody wants to come play.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to come there. This is my bold prediction, and I said it. I think Nafisha Carter will play for Indiana next year.
Oh my God, I don't know about that.
It's just a bold prediction. I think it. I think so. But if she don't, hey, it's all good. But
I think she is in a system that fits her so well. Cheryl is a very specific type of coach. And like whenever they drafted Diamond Miller out of Maryland, I thought that was going to be a really good fit because the same coach at Maryland or the coach there in Maryland and the coach at Minnesota are very similar types of coaches. They don't take no shit. I can say that, they definitely do not. And so I thought it was going to be a good fit. Hopefully we see Diamond get some minutes over there, but I think Fee is in a situation where she will probably be the best fit where she's at now. However, I do think we're going to see Aaliyah Boston take a step forward this year, and they're not necessarily going to need to go after somebody that's a 4-5 combo and dominant. I think you have it in Aaliyah. I think Aaliyah's always had it. She was just when she was at South Carolina, she was the best player on a really great team. And so she had a lot of help around her, and it made her, I don't want to say look better than she actually was, but it was the right system, and they had to figure out the right coach there in Indiana because even before Caitlin, I knew Christy was a problem. Not that I don't like her, I don't like her. But we all knew that the ball needed to go through Aaliyah Boston. This is pre-Caitlin Clark, right?
Yeah.
Aaliyah needed to be touching the ball more than she was. And she had the ability to run the offense despite being a 4. She has the ability to run the offense. She had to touch the ball. Well, instead, you had Erica Wheeler and Kelsey Mitchell who were playing ISO ball all the time, and they were putting up great numbers, but the team wasn't winning. And Aaliyah wasn't touching the ball as much as she needed to. And so you need somebody to come in and break that up. And so when Christy benched Erica, we saw immediately how much better Indiana got. Yeah. And so I thought it was clicking for her, but I also didn't think she was just the right fit for Indiana. Stephanie White, however, is somebody that is perfect for that organization. She played there. She's coached there. It's not new. And look at what she's built. She brought DeWanna Bonner for heaven's sake over there. I thought for sure DeWanna was going to Phoenix.
That signing it shocked me because I thought the same thing. I thought DeWanna Bonner was going to go with AT. But then after it happened, I say, DeWanna has her own set of rules. She's been in the league longer than AT, even though they're together, but she's been in the league longer. She has won championships. Yes. And so she wants to go where she knows this team is at that pinnacle point to bring, to win a title. So, and DeWanna said that she said that she wants to work with Aaliyah because she said Aaliyah wants to be the best center in the league. And she said she could be the best center in the league. And even last year in the second half of the season, when you seen how her and Caitlin Clark were flowing a little bit, where Caitlin would find her and, or she would be in the post and then she'll kick it out to either Mitchell or back to Clark or whoever was on the outside. Now they don't even have to struggle with outside shooting because you got a lot of weapons around.
Yeah. You got Sophie, who's going to be coming off the bench again. And I think that's the right position for her coming off the bench. I think she's a great 6 woman. She is a lethal 3-point shooter when she's on, but she can be streaky. Yeah. And so coming off the bench is right. But can you imagine her subbing in for Kelsey Mitchell? That's going to be it's going to be a great rotation, Yeah. And when it comes to DeWanna, I thought, because my thought was DT hasn't announced her retirement just yet. She's hinted at it. They put some videos out, but nothing is official yet. Well, where DeWanna's won her championships at is Phoenix with DT. And so to me, it felt like a swan song. Maybe DT wasn't quite done. But then, I'm sorry, my cat's walking on my computer.
That's fine.
When DeWanna said that, going to Indiana was where she wanted to be, especially because of Stephanie, that I was just really surprised. I figured Phoenix was it and that we hadn't seen the last of DT yet.
Okay, so I know you have to get out of here and everything. Give me your prediction for the rematch between USC and UCLA next week.
Oh, okay. I think
I think it's this week. No, it's next week. Yeah, because that's the first.
I think UCLA will probably bounce back, but that is dependent on whether Lauren plays. She was in a boot this last game, and didn't play, and we see how much that affected them. While they got the win, they struggled against a team that they should not struggle with.
Okay.
And so I think that UCLA will bounce back, but that's contingent on whether Lauren's there or not.
Ooh, that's gonna be tough because then I think they play Iowa soon this week, and that's not going to be an easy win either.
No, it's not.
And I just witnessed USC almost lose to Michigan State the other night, and that's what the thing we was talking about earlier is that these games is going to be hit or miss. If you don't play at the level that you need to play at, and you up for one team and then you down for another team, it could cause you where you need to be, especially in the Big Ten right now. If you look at it, it's USC, UCLA, Michigan State, and Iowa right now. So any one of them could have the top seed.
Okay, they could have the top seed, but something that I was paying attention to, not only in the SEC tournament but in the Big Ten tournament, is that mid-range team. Those teams that are at like 4, 5, and 6. Those teams are really tough. Like Nebraska is a really tough defensive team, and they're very similar to the Texas and South Carolina types of defense, and that can be really, really oppressive.
Yeah, Ohio State too.
Ohio State they're good, but they're streaky. And specifically, Cody is pretty streaky. And I had hoped to see a little more out of her this year. She has games where she looks amazing, and so I don't want to sit there and say, "Oh, it's been awful," but it hasn't been consistent. Okay.
Well, I know you got to run, but I really enjoyed this conversation, and hopefully we could do it again. You're more than welcome to come back anytime you want. Just let everybody know where they can find you.
Okay, you can just search the Queen of Hoop and you will find me on Facebook, Instagram, and X. And then you can also search the Chicks podcast. So we have 2 versions of that. We have 3 chicks in a pod, but about a year after we started it, we found a 4th chick. So we have the Chicks and Salsa version as well. And so just search the Chicks podcast and you can find me on YouTube.
All right, guys. So thank y'all for joining us. Until the next episode, LiveWire Sports and Queen of Hoops. We out.
Hey, so amazing. You see how they playing? LiveWire, it's all about sports and entertainment. You don't want to miss it, so official like you never seen. Keep it going till the whistle blowing from the referee. Everything from highlights and stats. You know that we gotta run it back, whether on the field or the court. You know that this is where it's at. Subscribe, no delaying. This is LiveWire, sports and entertainment. Let's go.